Sorry, it's been a while. I'm still quite busy with my legal troubles regarding my property, but enough of that for now. I have a special video here. I was reminded of a rare festival that occurred in 1951 in Britain called the Festival of Britain, and my theory is that it was a sort of New World fair, similar to the World's Fairs, but this one was more of a national fair. And it was kind of a melding of the New World with the disappearance of the Old World. A sort of kiss off to the Old World. A sort of heralding of the New Age. The Festival of Britain was a national exhibition and fair that reached millions of visitors throughout the United Kingdom in the summer of 1951. Historian Kenneth O. Morgan says the festival was, quote, a triumph of success, during which people flocked to the South Bank site to wander around the Dome of Discovery, gaze at the skyline, and generally enjoy a festival of national celebration. Up and down the land, Leicester festivals enlisted much civic and voluntary enthusiasm. A people curbed by years of total war and half crushed by austerity and gloom showed that it had not lost the capacity for enjoying itself. Above all, the festival made a spectacular setting as a showpiece for inventiveness and genius of British scientists and technologists. Labour cabinet member Herbert Morrison was the prime mover. In 1947, he started with the original plan to celebrate the centennial of the Great Exhibition of 1851. However, it was not to be another world fair, for international themes were absent, as was the common British wealth of Britain. Instead, the 1951 festival focused entirely on Britain and its achievements. It was funded chiefly by the government with a budget of £12 million. The Labour government was losing support, and so the implicit goal of the festival was to give the people a feeling of successful recovery from the war's devastation, as well as promoting British science, technology, industrial design, architecture, and the arts. And there you have the official story. That was just a brief explanation of the festival. Information was hard to find beyond that. And here we have what appears to be the Grand Pavilion at night. And let me just say that yes, there is a lot of text about the history of this festival and its purpose and its intentions, but there was not a lot of photography of the inside of the buildings as usual. And we're told that this whole festival was of course torn down after its closing ceremony. Within a year or two, most buildings, statues, and installations were destroyed. And we're also told that a lot of the scrap was not accounted for, and possibly some of it was even thrown into the River Thames. And here we have another photo at night showing the dome, and we'll explain more about that later. But as you can see by the writing, it's dated 1951. Now, this festival was somewhat of an anomaly due to the nationalistic theme of the fair, as it was solely about the culture of Britain, something that would never happen nowadays under today's political climate, but that's another video. Here is yet another night shot, and we see that this is nothing like the World's Fairs, as they embraced so-called Greco-Roman and a neoclassical revival, or possibly a preservation of Tartarian construction. But that's not what this video is about. This video is about how Britain was able to sort of usher in a new age, a new design, a new showcasing of contemporary modern architecture, and in a way, an almost Disneyland-esque presentation of the future of technology as it pertained to Great Britain. Here's an overview, and we have a list of the exhibitions and the features, as well as a general topography of the land. And we see symbolism even just in the simple map here with the crescent moons and circles within circles. That's the dome, more about that later. And then we see how it pertains a little bit to the local geography here with Waterloo Bridge and York Road. And we see the entrances here. And this is just a scan of an old pamphlet. Here we see the old staple marks, even a little bit of rust from the staples. And there you have that. And then we have here a listing, and I couldn't find pictures of most of these things, to be honest. I could not find a lot of detailed photography of these exhibits and these features. Moving on here, we have this statue, and this is the only picture of this statue I could find. It's a beautiful bronze, presuming here on this granite pedestal, but regardless, this is all I could find of this particular statue. And you'll notice that we have here the flag. We have the Union Jack of Great Britain, but then we also have the traditional flag of England here. And then here we have some contemporary ladies and this gentleman here. And then here, Festival of Britain in a very contemporary font. Here we have the insignia, and it's nothing like the World's Fairs. I'll just state that. This is not in any means a way of comparing the two completely different things here. That's why I wanted to do this video, because we can see how the old world had disappeared almost entirely by 1951, at least in the minds of the current population. And as we see here, another futuristic example of this festival. I'm not even going to call it a fair, it's a festival. It's the Festival of Britain, so let's just refer to it as a festival from now on. So at this festival, we see this very futuristic, very space age, very atomic age, very post-World War II style architecture and atomic design. And once again, just a complete disregard for anything old and a complete embracement of everything new. Here we see corporate sponsorship here by Philips, and possibly something else, not sure, but definitely Philips. Almost, once again, kind of like a Walt Disney style of corporate sponsorship with attractions and theme parks. And then here we have just a little bit of fun. We have some type of polar bear or abominable snowman or something like that. And then you can put your face in the picture there and take a picture, and everybody's smiling, everybody's happy. Once again, just a complete opposite of the dismal, gloomy, spooky World's Fairs. Here we see yet another example of a resort, a theme park, a family destination. Complete fanfare. And then here we have a good example of the crown jewel of the festival, the Skylon, I believe it's called. And it was constructed to appear to be floating. And this particular building, this particular sculpture, nobody knows what happened to it. Official story is that it was scrapped or that it was thrown into the River Thames. That I find kind of hard to believe, considering how much it must have cost to construct. But regardless, that's the official story, is that it disappeared and was either scrapped or thrown into the river. Skylon, that's the name of it. And here we have an official flyer to promote the festival. And here we have a listing of the company who built it. You see here, Steelwork by Painter Bros Limited, Steel Ropes by Wright Ropes Limited. It's a very futuristic, very ahead of its time by comparison of what we think of 1951, even down to the font that they used. And here we see this almost phantasmagorical kind of representation, very futuristic. And yet another shot of the Skylon, illuminated at night. And here we see some slight similarities to the World's Fairs in the sense of the foreboding, kind of ominous photography that it produced. But beyond that, I see no other similarities. And yet another shot. As I said, this was the crown jewel, so there was a lot of photos of this particular structure of the Skylon. Why it didn't remain is a mystery. It seemed like something that would fit right in with today's sculptures and today's architecture, but regardless. And then we see the foundation of the dome here in the foreground here. But we'll get to that later. And here we have another shot from a different angle, showing off the insect-like foundation here, the base that holds the structure in place. And I could see how from a distance it would look like it was floating. Now the symbolism in that, I'm not sure. And then we have some fountains here. We have some people standing around admiring it. It's almost like it was a World's Fair from the future. And then moving on, we have another example of the old meeting the new, almost like the last vestiges of the steam-powered locomotive here, but with a more futuristic cylindrical design and a sharp black paint job, gloss black paint job. And then once again, the foundation, the support structure of the Skylon, and we see how it just dangles here with the ropes here and then down to a needle point here. They really like this. This was obviously the crowning achievement of the festival. But then in this photograph we see the old world. There's no escaping that in London. So there you have it. You have this dichotomy, you have this juxtaposition. But that wasn't what the festival was about. It just so happened that it was in London, so there's no way to not have Parliament there in the background. So anyways, moving on. Now here we have the lion and the unicorn. Now this was one of the features, if you remember earlier in the video, that was listed in the pamphlet. And once again, I don't have any photographs of the inside of this building, but what I do have is a diagram. So here we see in, out, this is the way you're supposed to walk here, the balcony, English language. I would imagine it's a feature that showcases and highlights the achievements of the English language or famous works of literature, something of that nature. And then we have freedoms, nature, skill, eccentricity, and humor. There we have that. And then we have the lion and the unicorn. I'm not sure what that pertains to. This is all I could find on it. And then here we have another example of the New World. We have this satellite tower, almost looks like a lighthouse. But then once again, this very futuristic support structure, everything very slim and modern and sleek. And then we have a giant radar or satellite dish here, almost like the Antiquitech but not hidden in antiquity, just blatantly brutal and technologically focused here, ushering in new technology to get people used to seeing apparatuses such as these in public spaces. Much like nowadays we have cameras everywhere in London. It's the most surveilled metropolitan area in the world, and everybody's oblivious, everybody's excited to see new things, and they're not thinking about the future and what it holds, the nightmares that it brings. And then we have what I would consider something positive. We have a man and we have a woman holding hands here in an embrace. Very primal, very primitive looking, almost naked and vulnerable. Here we have a signature, 1951, artist. So that's nice. So we have that. And then we have this, the Islanders. Now, I would imagine this symbolizes the people of Britain, possibly symbolizing the first people or the inheritors, if we want to go down that road. Hidden somewhere in this sculpture is that. Could be. And then we have this grotesque. We have this grotesque. I don't even know what this is. A decadent, degenerate piece of art that what I get from it is the melding of the man and the woman and the child into this abomination, into this sort of human but not human representation. So that's interesting, especially in today's context. And we have what appears to be information about the artist, but it's a little bit too blurry. Regardless, it seems a little interesting to have such a primal example of man and woman, and then we have man, woman, and child in the previous slide, and then it degrades into this sort of just glob of life, but not distinguishable by gender or by anything other than arms here and some type of distorted torso and some type of just a mess of modern art. And that was also to get people used to seeing things like this, to say that this is beautiful, to say that this is art. And I know that it's in the eye of the beholder, but regardless, we could see what was coming down the pipeline here. At least people in 1951 could if they had eyes and a little bit of foresight. Anyways, moving on, we have another diagram, and this is the diagram of the dome. And I'm going to show you the dome in a second. But what I thought was interesting about the dome, okay, what some of my viewers will get from this is the firmament. We have a very blatant connection, possibly. Then we have the land, the physical world, polar theater of the earth inside the dome. Okay, we have the globe earth inside the dome. Then we have the sea outside of a wall. Okay, we know about that. And then we have outer space in yet another crescent shape here, but the physical world. See, I know what people are going to say. They're going to say this is an example of the physical world being an exhibit, and this is an example of the land being a separate exhibit, and they're showcasing the different characteristics and features. I understand that, but look at the symbology. Okay, look at the symbolism. Okay, that's all I'm saying. When we talk about the ice wall, the polar regions of this realm, and how it pertains to the crater Earth theory, that there's a living world outside of the physical world, that outer space is more or less a construct of modern astrophysics and modern cosmology, but that all that really matters is the Earth, the physical. Why is the globe Earth in a disk under a dome? Now, possibly leave some comments about whether or not you want me to look into more about what this particular exhibit entailed. I'll try to find some more photos. Maybe I'll do another video about that. I just thought it was very interesting, and I don't want to go on a huge rant about it, but regardless, it's probably the most interesting thing about this festival. And then here it is. Here's the dome, and then here's the Skylon. So we can zoom in a little bit. The photo's a little pixelated, but we can zoom in a little bit here, and we see the dome. The dome, and then inside the dome, as the pamphlet described, we have the physical world, the earth, the sea, outer space, all inside the dome. I just happen to find that very interesting with everything going on these days about the talk of the firmament and flat earth and so on and so forth. So we'll just leave it at that. And then we have the Skylon here with the old world in the back. So we have the new world. We have the new world in the foreground here. And it almost like appears to be this giant monolith, and it seems to be casting a shadow on the river here. This is the best photo that I could find that really encapsulated all three of the key points of this video. We have the old world, the new world, and the dome. Okay, so this is the most interesting thing. If you take one thing away from this video, especially if you're a first-time watcher of this channel, you have it all here. You have the old world, you have the new world, and then you have the dome and everything therein. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.